Esta es del Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate. This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es del Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Este es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
This is the California State Senate.
Esta es el Senado Estatal de California.
This is the California State Senate.
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 Good morning, everyone. Welcome to CSUN. Glad you're all here. I want to welcome Senator Pavley and Assemblymember Bocanegra and all of our esteemed panelists this morning. Thank you for being here. We're looking forward to a great conversation. It's timely, I think, that CSUN is hosting this event. CSUN has just recently celebrated the launch of LACI at CSUN. That's the Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator at CSUN. They've placed their first off-site campus from their downtown campus on CSUN's campus, and we're very excited about that and the impact it's going to have on the valley. LACI represents CSUN's next phase of engagement with business and industries to make a positive impact on the economic growth of our region. And it's gratifying to see others acknowledging CSUN's efforts to elevate the people and prosperity of Los Angeles. A recent study by PayScale and Higher Ed Net that looked at universities' track records of elevating people up the social and economic ladder placed CSUN at number 5 in the entire country for its success in this area. Money Magazine also just ranked CSUN as a top 10 best value in higher education in the nation. And our commitment to sustainability is found in our two most recent buildings. The Valley Performing Arts Center, which is ranked as the number 2 best performing arts center on a university campus in the country, and our Recreational Sports and Fitness Center, which is ranked in the top 10 for such facilities on a university campus, are both Gold LEED certified buildings. And of course, a big reason that CSUN is getting this positive attention is because of faculty like Dr. Bruno Osorno, who you'll hear from later today, in our College of Engineering and Computer Science, and his exciting work around workforce development in the clean tech arena. So it's with enthusiasm, with a shared commitment to sustainability, that we welcome all of you and our esteemed panelists here this morning, and we look forward to a wonderful conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice President Gonzalez. Thank you very much for hosting this. We're proud to be here at Cal State Northridge, and there's a quick question. How many of you in the room were here when it was Valley State? Oh, that's brave to put your hands up. So, and how many of you went down the street to the Budweiser place on Fridays to take a tour of the beer? Yes. It's quite the event. I'm proud to be hosting this hearing today, and I have a master's degree from CSUN when they had a master's degree program in environmental planning, which sustainability issues in environmental planning are probably more relevant today than ever. I'm Fran Pavley. I represent the 27th Senate District, mostly geographically west of the 405, with the exception of this part of Northridge and Granada Hills. My district starts on the other side of Reseda Boulevard. That's 40% of the district, but just so you know, a Senate district's very big, 931,000 people, way bigger than a congressional district. So my district runs from Magic Mountain in Santa Clarita area to Malibu, but the other 40% is in Ventura County, Simi, Thousand Oaks, Oak Park, Moore Park, and those kinds of areas. And I'm very honored to be co-hosting this event today with Assemblymember Raul Bocanegra. It's important that the Valley legislators work collaboratively together because we want to be able to deliver for the Valley important jobs. And I know, Raul, we share a love of tying in educational opportunities for students, whether career pathways through K-12 to the community colleges and on to CSUN. But this is a great conference because the potential of growing jobs right here in the San Fernando Valley and the businesses and tying it all together is a win-win. We also share a passion, in addition to having a clean energy future and making education a priority, we also share a passion for cleaning up the air. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley in Sherman Oaks, and if you were around during the 50s and 60s, Red Flag Day all the time. This is before unleaded gas and other kinds of investments we've made. And we're starting now to invest in transportation. So we have an exciting hearing today. It's focused on clean tech in the San Fernando Valley, and I say it's about time, right? It's about time to make this a focus and a priority. Next time we'll get Mayor Garcetti over here too as well, so he can join in this. Representing the 27th District in Sacramento, however, we have the Bay Area that's so competitive in this niche. There is no reason that we shouldn't be just as competitive. And the San Fernando Valley with 1.8 million, with rail lines, transportation corridors, a wonderful university here, Cal State Northridge, that can provide that kind of expertise that we need to have an educated workforce. We're in a great place for that. And checking out the zoning in the Valley, there's a lot of areas, not only for startup business and incubators, but manufacturing facilities. We'd like to see them right here. So please let either one of us know your good ideas or possibilities, challenges or obstacles for you to create a thriving business here in the Valley. That's our goal. I wanted to turn it over to Assemblymember Bocanegra for a few comments.
Yes, good morning, everyone. It's very nice to be back at my own stomping grounds. Before being elected to the legislature, I was a lecturer here in the Department of Urban Studies and Planning. So when I was asked if I would consider co-hosting such an important subject matter at a venue that's near and dear to my heart, I absolutely said yes. But more importantly, to work here together and to be part of this informational hearing with the author of AB 32, I jumped at that, quite frankly. So it's a pleasure to be here. If you're familiar with my district, it's a working class, heavily manufacturing district. It's the 39th, so I'm from Pacoima and the communities of Sylmar and Sun Valley, parts of Salentahunga. Clearly a brown stack economy still exists in my district, and I have a keen interest in how do we incentivize, begin to plan to move that brown stack economy into a green stack economy. So I am especially interested in hearing from all the panelists. Thank you to you, Senator Pavley, for her stewardship on this issue, and I'm looking forward to this morning's discussion.
Thank you very much. And before I introduce the first panel, I also wanted to, again, thank Cal State Northridge for hosting the event. Francesca Vega, where are you? You did a lot of the work here for coordinating and hosting this. Thank you very much, Francesca. For those of you who don't know her, get to know her. She gets things done. Also wanted to thank the LA Cleantech Incubator at Cal State Northridge for co-hosting and bringing all the wonderful clean technology companies here. If you haven't had a chance to stop by the booths, please do so later on. Ecoponics, Nextility, found out what that meant, the next utility. Sweet Solar, Smart Solar, Cal State Northridge Institute for Sustainability and Breaking Plastic. Just a housekeeping word. Restrooms are on the second floor. If you need exercise, use the stairs. Otherwise, there's an elevator right outside the door. And I think that's it, other than a special shout out to my own staff. I always think these are easy to do because I just show up. It's all done. It's done perfectly. It works very well, having staff. Henry Stern is down from Sacramento, but he also has family in the district and lives here in the fall. He does all my work on clean tech and energy and environment. Please introduce yourself to him. My district director is here. Where's Kara? She was, yes, and my district staff, that is, apologies, Assemblymember Bocanegra, my district staff is second to none, if you want to have some competition here, in the Senate side, of course. So Rosalba, where's Rosalba? She's over here. She represents me in the San Fernando Valley. And do we have anyone else here? And Louise Rishoff, who's actually, I've been on the council with Louise, and she was my district director when I was in the assembly, so known her for years, and she's doing her photography duties today. So thank you very much for your attendance. So let's go on and introduce our first panel. Those of you, I think, all have a program there. You can see we're going to be listening to several panels, and then we'll be opening it up to public comments. A lot of one-on-one conversations can occur perhaps afterwards as well. And so I hope this will be very interesting to you. I'm looking forward to their testimony. Panel number one is State Perspectives on Local Clean Tech Opportunities. We have two gentlemen who flew down, I suppose, spewing greenhouse gas emissions from Sacramento, or did you bicycle? No? No. So with us today is from the Energy Commission, Commissioner McAllister. Really an honor for him to be here in the San Fernando Valley, and if you haven't met him, you should. The Energy Commission is very engaged in energy efficiency, doing amazing jobs on appliances and building design. Commissioner McAllister has over 20 years of experience in energy efficiency and renewable generation. Prior to joining the commission, he worked at the California Center for Sustainable Energy, and previously worked in Central and South America, Southeast Asia, and Africa on sustainable energy projects, as well as the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory. He is fluent in Spanish, and so that's a wonderful talent to have. So those of you who want to communicate or test his Spanish, please ask your questions in Espanol. Also on the first panel is Doug Ito, also down from Sacramento. He is the Assistant Division Chief of the Transportation and Toxics Division at the California Air Resources Board, also known as CARB, our air board, where he helps lead the division's efforts on providing metrics for multiple state agencies responsible for investing cap and trade auction proceeds in transportation, energy, water, and natural resources projects. We can go into more in depth on that, but it's particularly relevant in the transportation area, as well as buildings, energy efficiency, transit-oriented development, and I hope to work collaboratively with CARB and the Energy Commission on really exploring how to do a better job in connecting energy and water delivery systems. Mr. Ito has over 15 years of experience working on transportation and air quality for both regional and state government. Welcome, gentlemen. Commissioner McAllister, why don't you start off?
Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. When Senator Frampalli calls, I tend to agree with Assemblyman Bocanegra that it's an offer you don't turn down. You get on board and you help her achieve what she is trying to achieve, because she has shown over and over again that just a combination of respectful engagement with all the stakeholders and sort of a roll-up-your-sleeves can-do attitude can really get a lot of good things done. And it takes a team. So I really am just honored to be here and really just happy as a Californian that you all elected her. There is a huge amount of opportunity. I'll just make a little preamble at a very high level. A huge amount of opportunity in California in terms of sustainability generally, but definitely clean energy. This is the place to be, our state. There's so much innovative spirit here, experience, knowledge, skills across the state, not just in Silicon Valley, not just in the particular places that we know, but really everywhere. And we have what it takes to make it bigger and better. And so that's great, because our challenges are huge. We've set ambitious goals for carbon, of course, and hopefully that long-term perspective will get into statute here pretty soon, all the way to 2050. And we have a lot of smart people looking at what the scenarios are that are going to get us there in terms of technology and implementation and investment. And there's really no way to slice it other than we have to make tremendous technology, but beyond that, implementation and policy, structural improvements. So in all of those areas, to make sure that all the gears can interface well and everything can run smoothly, and we can really get down to our goals over time. So it's also very clear that our modeling in the energy sector shows us just without a doubt that energy efficiency has to be a fundamental strategy for whatever scenario ends up playing out. If we're gonna meet our goals, then energy efficiency makes all the other details of any scenario easier to accomplish. And within energy efficiency, most of the buildings that are here, that are gonna be here in 2050 are already here today. And we have a lot of new buildings going up. We have, construction, and that's a good thing. It's great for our economy. But we have a lot of existing buildings that have tremendous energy savings potential. So that is a primary focus of effort for the Energy Commission and for my office within the Energy Commission as the lead commissioner on efficiency. So that's a long preamble to kind of frame the issues here. I want to just go on to the next slide, if you will. So these are all the things that the Energy Commission does. It's a broad portfolio. We do everything from approving permits for large thermal power plants all the way down to in funding long-term RD&D in the clean energy space. Anyway, you can read the list, but I'm going to talk particularly about some of our energy efficiency efforts more than anything today. Next slide, please. So I don't want to talk too much about carbon because I'm sure Doug will do an able job at that. But there are a lot of places that our carbon emissions come from. This is from 2011, but it hasn't changed too much since then. You'll notice the big one is transportation there. A lot of carbon coming out of our tailpipes, and yes, definitely out of our airplanes. Although I do ride the train a lot, and I ride my bike to work a lot, so I feel a little self-righteous about that particular thing. Let's see, and the two broken out pieces there are the electricity pieces, and then down below you've got residential, is another 7% slice. Agricultural and industrial, sometimes regrettably get a little bit overlooked because they're a little bit harder to make a one-size-fits-all policy, but you'll see that commercial, electricity supply, and well, I guess the electricity supply, and then the residential is actually, residential and down there at the bottom, the 7%, that's actually emissions from natural gas. But there is the point is there's a diversity of carbon emissions in the state. So next slide. And this is a little bit complicated, but basically this is the carbon emissions that we kind of have to focus on getting if we're going to get to 2050 in this 80% below 1990 levels. Okay, so if we just go on as is, business as usual, we end up over at the left-hand column. If we do all the things we need to do, we get over to the right-hand column, and that's our goal. So that's major reductions. I mean, that's more than 80% below where we are right now. And you'll see the second column over there that's got a yellow top. It's about 2/5 maybe of the whole thing, 43% below our as business as usual trajectory. That yellow part is energy efficiency. That's the biggest potential, and it's by and large the most cost-effective potential source of reductions of carbon emissions. So let's see, I guess that's really all I need to say there. You can look at it. There's too many words on this slide. I apologize. Next slide, please. So just to let everyone know, there is an effort that's in my shop to develop an action plan for the existing buildings. The statute is AB 758. Nancy Skinner passed this bill a number of years ago now. It's actually proving quite difficult to figure out what the steps ought to be. There are a lot of ways that we do business in California in the energy efficiency realm that we do need to really unpack and think about how we can make them work better. And in particular, how we can enable the marketplace to develop solutions to bring to homeowners, business owners, residents, citizens, that they actually want to purchase. we have a lot of authority to do mandatory measures, but there's really the best route is to make it sort of a win-win. What that we as a state might strongly encourage people to do is actually going to increase their be net cash flow positive just straight away. And energy efficiency has that possibility where you use less energy, you save a lot of money. There's a certain capital investment, many times that you have to make, but all in all, as an investment, it looks good. So we need to make that easy, that transaction easy for the average person who may not have a bunch of money in their pocket and who may not even have the right kinds of information and knowledge to be able to make that decision. So I think the state can play an enabling role to get that knowledge out there into the world, facilitate those transactions. But at the end of the day, businesses, we're not the guys with the white trucks. The folks out there selling and installing and buying equipment and putting it in and demonstrating that value proposition are out there in the marketplace. And so my kind of overall organizing principle is, what can we do? The most important things that I want to push are the things we can do to make that reality easier to manage. So along those lines, local governments are, I think, even more effective in this regard than the state, because they're closer to the folks that are making these decisions every day. And so I think it's critical that the state partner with local government. Next slide, please. So this is just to point out that digital devices, we all have, everybody in the audience probably has a smartphone with them, and they go home, they plug it in. You got, your set-top box, you've got your television, you've got a lot of electronic devices, and there's more of them every day. And their proliferation is kind of presenting us with a new challenge of how do we approach pushing energy efficiency in that realm. I've had some success in the last few years with sort of battery-related systems and making those more efficient. The proliferation of digital TV has pushed the marketplace in ways that promote efficiency. So that's been all good. But you'll see from 2000 up to 2013, just the amount of energy these devices use has gone up tremendously. Next slide. But national average, this is from a national report, but it's roughly similar for California, sort of like where we use energy. A lot of diverse appliances. Now, digital devices are in there, still less than 10%, but it's going to get over 10% here pretty quick. Typically, electronics now use more than the refrigerator in an average person's home. We got air conditioning, which is probably a little bit higher in California than nationally. Heating, which is probably a little bit lower in California than nationally. But you can see there's a lot of, there's again a diversity. Next slide. So in California, we have a really interesting position in the marketplace in terms of appliance efficiency. So by appliances, I mean the big stuff like washers and dryers and fridges, heating and AC units, all the way down to battery chargers and TVs, as I said. And California actually is recognized by the federal government as having a special place in this realm. Now, Department of Energy regulates the efficiency of your refrigerator and your white goods, your big stuff, and many commercial devices, motors, that kind of thing. But they don't regulate close to all the devices that are out there, even the ones that consume a lot of energy in people's homes, and so homes and businesses. So if there is not a federal standard that preempts that preempts us, we can develop here in California a standard. And then other states can adopt our standard if they want to. So we are in a really unique situation where we can drive the national discussion, and we've done that repeatedly over the last couple of decades. And sort of if we say, well, we're looking at this or that device, then that really moves the market to act. And so they either get going and they start making voluntary improvements, or they go to federal government and they say, hey, DOE, could you develop something? Because we don't want two types we don't want multiple products for different jurisdictions. Or we just plow ahead and we go ahead and do a standard, and then DOE ends up kind of adopting that standard or using our processes to develop a similar standard. So that means that California is a place of action in terms of developing energy efficient technologies for the massive marketplace. And so that's just a really interesting position that we're in for historical reasons. And we have a staff at the Energy Commission that I think knocks this process out of the park. It's a very robust process. It really depends on having knowledgeable stakeholders from industry engaged to help us get a handle on what the savings are and what the cost might be. And if it pans out from a cost-benefit perspective, then we move forward. Next slide. So I'm not going to read through all this, but we have a program called the Electric Program Investment Charge that is in the hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's a grant program, so it's a competitive grant program to develop innovative technologies in all sorts of different areas. Energy efficiency is a big focus, transportation is a big focus, but there are smart grid obviously is a big focus now these days. Renewables, we do a lot of work in renewables, so it's a typically competitive process focused on a certain topic. There are RFP opportunities or program opportunity notices, they're called, and you can go to that website and get on the list and get an email every time there's a new PON, program opportunity notice, and it'll have all the details about how your business might develop or be part of a team for a proposal to do a project with state funding. And I think that program has just produced tremendous value over the last couple decades. It used to be called a peer program. Some of you might be familiar with that. Now it's called the EPIC program. But it's created tremendous economic value in the state. Next slide, please. So basically this is there's an operative kind of framework that we use. They're early stage technologies that show some promise but haven't really been fully developed. We help those get developed. Then we help them get sort of commercial opportunities get understood and exploited. And then once there's some opportunity to scale, then we try to use other programs to incentivize the entrance of those technologies or practices into the marketplace. So there's kind of a technology innovation framework that we use to push different ideas at the opportune moment. So you can see that laid out right here. Next slide. So there's the EPIC budget. I'm not going to go through this, but it's quite a bit. We have an annual, or I guess a biannual investment plan that we develop, and it gets vetted with the Public Utilities Commission, and then we implement it. So there's a lot of, it's very transparent, it's very kind of intentional. So I would suggest if you really have a little bit of time to kill, you might check out the next investment plan. But it does have, I think, a good background on where different technologies stand and what the motivating policy efforts are here in California. Certainly a lot of small companies have gotten funding from PEER and now EPIC that have helped them develop products that have given them some success, and we're really proud of that. Next slide. So there's another program that we administer at the Energy Commission. It's actually in partnership with ARB now as well, but it's the Alternative and Renewable Fuel and Vehicle Technology Program. And it's similar to EPIC in many ways, only it's focused on transitioning really our transportation infrastructure over to clean sources of energy. So that's all electric, it's renewable biofuels, it's fuel cells, hydrogen, and it's up and down the chain. So it's everything from charging stations, fueling stations, and the technology in the vehicles themselves. There's a lot of innovation happening in all of those areas. But if you can have the greatest car in the world, but if you don't have the infrastructure and the network to fuel it, then it's really not worth much. So it really is a complex endeavor, and the legislature has seen fit to fund it at levels that are important enough to move the market again. Now this is happening at a scale in California that it just dwarfs every other state, and we're really lucky to be in that situation. So there's some workshops that are coming. You can see some of these are funded by the ARFVT. There's a biofuels workshop happening about a PON on that topic, and electric vehicles are kind of an ongoing concern as well. So next slide. So I want to just really sum up here. Let's see. I think I have some comments that I want to make sure I get in. Let's see here. So, the existing buildings, we just can't avoid them, and I want to encourage, I don't know how many of you in the audience, I'm looking forward to talking with as many as I can today, but figuring out business models that are going to get people in existing buildings to invest in those buildings and to operate those buildings in a way that is high performing and obviously meets their needs and is comfortable and works for them, but does it with the minimum amount of energy. There's a lot of optimization that we can do in our buildings, and partly it's investment in the buildings themselves, but it's also how we operate them and how we live in them. And it can have all sorts of benefits. You know, the energy is only part of it. Comfort and indoor air quality, health, property values. There are just any number of benefits to upgrading our existing buildings. So I want to point that out. It's got to be, the market has to do that. You know, we can help. Certainly don't want to get in the way. Certainly don't want to put up policies that inhibit that kind of innovation. But above all, I want to create tools, informational tools, technologies, stimulate, sort of work through some of the barriers of different business models and financing options so that we can actually make those things happen in reality and scale. Our appliance and building standards are huge. I'm going to mention our goals for new construction. I've talked a lot about existing buildings, but new construction, you know, our building industry is an important part of our economy, and the Building Industries Association has really been a great partner the last few code cycles to help us figure out how to make our new construction buildings, newly constructed buildings, more efficient. We are aiming to have all new residential construction zero net energy by 2020. It's just right around the corner. It's 2 more code cycles. So zero net energy means it's producing as much energy as it's consuming. So that's a fairly big lift. And then for commercial, we have the same goal by 2020, or 2030 rather. So we have 10 more years for commercial. So commercial presents a whole slew of other you know, challenges, but there are commercial and school, you know, non-residential buildings being built today that are zero net energy, and we're seeing that the costs aren't anywhere near as much as kind of you know, some folks thought they were going to be. So obviously it depends on where and you know, what kind of building and where it is, climate zone, solar and wind resource, et cetera. But there are really innovative ways to go about this, so it's a very exciting discussion right now. Anybody providing technology for the new construction sector, there are a lot of opportunities to get to scale. And then the last thing I want to say is mention Proposition 39. Our schools are special, and we have, you know, for any number of reasons. I mean, I have 2 kids in the public schools and want nothing but the best for them and their classmates. And in the state, in many places of the state, you know, our schools have been kind of chronically underfunded. They've got a lot of deferred maintenance. They have a lot of challenges, you know, way beyond their facilities, but definitely including their facilities. So Proposition 39 passed, and it got a budget. It gets a new budget each year. It's up to $500 million a year. It's panning out to be a little bit less than that. Depends on tax revenues. But we've developed and are managing a program to provide formula allocation funding to schools across the state, so everybody's eligible basically. And so we're working with schools to make sure that they do good projects, that they do sound projects from an energy perspective, that they're going to harvest the savings that are available there and that the projects are meant to realize, and work with them to help make it an educational process for the schools and the facility managers themselves so that they can use it as part of a planning effort to optimize the facilities as they get new and different resources to invest. So that's another effort that really dwarfs what's going on in most other states in its scale. $2.5 billion is a lot of money. It sounds like a lot of money, but it's really only a few percent of what's necessary in our schools. So again, we've got to figure out ways to leverage other resources, channel the investments that they're already going to make in their energy and in their infrastructure, so that those resources are invested in a way that leverages technology, preferably homegrown technology here in California, right here in San Fernando Valley, and puts it in buildings and benefit our kids and our communities. So that's the overall goal of that program. That's a kind of a panoply of things that I'm working on, and I wanted to, again, thank Senator Pavley for showing the vision to have this event. Really happy to be here, and want to welcome, I have as open a door as I can manage, and welcome any of you who are in this space and who are, need ways to fund innovation or need ways to think about where you might go to do your work and help in this collective endeavor that we have in California. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner McAllister. Everyone's always interested in energy efficiency, and we'll have some follow-up questions after Mr. Ito on that. Energy efficiency, is multiple benefits, whether it's reducing the cost of utility bills, reducing GHG, but providing these new jobs and technologies. So there'll be some follow-up questions from both some member of Boca Negra and myself. Thank you, Mr. Ito, coming down from Sacramento, and let's hear your presentation on behalf of CARB.
Thank you very much, and Senator Pavley and Assemblyman Boca Negra. I appreciate being down here. I've traveled a lot this year down here relative to some work we're doing on sustainable freight, but this particular venue is important as a way to illustrate the broader implications of what we're trying to do across the state and bringing in clean technology and kind of generating the economy for that. Next slide. As the state air agency, all of our programs from research, regulations, planning to incentive programs are really focused on three particular tasks. The first one is one that we've been working on for a number of decades related to regional air pollution. So this is the ozone and particulate matter that Senator Pavley had mentioned early on with the red flag days. The second one listed there is the reduction of public exposure to toxic air contaminants. This is the local community impacts that are felt, and in particular on the freight side from diesel emissions. And then the last one is greenhouse gas emissions, and that's the one I'm going to focus on a little bit more today. Next slide. Commissioner McAllister's illustration of kind of the challenge before us is, it was a little bit of a different graphic than this, but it shows the challenge of getting to some of the goals that we have on the greenhouse gas side. One of the things I wanted to point out, though, is that with the introduction of AB 32 in 2006, that wasn't the beginning of the climate change discussion. That was really the catalyst in California that made the discussion that was already happening, the innovations that were already occurring, front and center on the attention. And so while we look at this and say, there's a big challenge ahead of us, there's huge opportunity for continued innovation, I think it's important to recognize a lot of that has already been happening. Next slide. We always tout California has a history of innovation. And I was Googling the San Fernando Valley, and the San Fernando Valley itself had a large role in the aerospace industry, and demonstrating the role that communities play in putting out advanced technologies and changing the way the world works. That's what we're trying to accomplish here. With AB 32, California sent a policy signal that is intended to help direct innovation towards clean technology. It then begs the question, how does the state then work with the private sector to realize and accelerate that trend of innovation? And part of what I'm going to focus on is the partnering of these funding programs, particularly the cap and trade auction proceeds in that process. Next slide, please. So this year, during the budget process, a little bit over $830 million was appropriated for this purpose. It was coming out of the cap and trade auction proceeds. This is an illustration of the money that was appropriated to specific agencies, 11 state agencies, multitudes of programs. So if you're following this at all, there's a ton of opportunities. This is the first year. Many of these agencies are just establishing their programs in terms of what they're focused on, the types of projects they want to fund. All of them are targeted at greenhouse gas emission reductions, but in different ways and different aspects. And Commissioner McAllister highlighted the idea that you may have advanced technologies, but if you don't have the infrastructure, if you don't have the communities to build those in, they won't work as well. And so, looking through this list, we're approaching it from a lot of different angles so that when technology and when communities are ready for it, all the pieces will come together. There's two programs within this list that I want to focus on in particular. Next slide. The first is administered by the Strategic Growth Council. It's $130 million focused on affordable housing and sustainable communities. It focuses on leveraging the local implementation of projects that the regions have been talking about already. The Southern California region has has a regional transportation plan process, which is incorporating a sustainable communities component. That work has been underway for several years, and it continues. So one of the purposes of this particular funding stream is to help support implementation of projects within those plans, helping communities realize the vision that has been put before us. Includes transit-oriented development that Senator Pavley mentioned before. Again, as you take a look, there is an affordable housing component. There's a requirement that some portion of the money be focused on disadvantaged communities within the state. But again, that's not all of it. I mean, there are communities that are going to benefit from a transportation and transit-centered focus from these funds, as well as some innovative active transportation programs or alternative transportation programs that are just becoming a focus of different ways. One example, I guess, probably best way to do an example, is in the San Joaquin Valley, there's specific programs dealing with van pools that will help agricultural workers get to their job locations. And so one of the innovations in that space, not technology, but how do we use the transportation system more effectively? Let's see, next slide. Actually, on the affordable housing and sustainable communities, again, in terms of the solicitation of those projects, they wrapped up their workshops. They're beginning the process of finalizing their guidelines, and solicitations will begin early next year. The other program that I wanted to focus on is the low carbon transportation program. This one highlights and incentivizes innovation and accelerated commercialization of particularly transportation, both passenger and freight technology. Again, this is a space where innovation is already occurring. There's a research component in terms of the pilot projects or the demonstration projects, but there's also a component of this program that is trying to get these engines, these advanced technologies out there and commercialized. Implementation of this particular program is also ongoing. One component of this that I've been working on in particular this year is on the freight side, I had mentioned earlier. We've been having discussions of how do we make the freight system, the entire supply chain from the business perspective, it's how do you get your product manufactured, and it could be overseas, to the retailer. And amidst the complexity of the freight system, there's this last mile component that is a particular conundrum. How do you get, if the container comes in from one of the ports and it gets to a distribution center, what are the effective ways of getting it from the distribution center to the retail outlet, or the Amazon effect, directly to the doorstep? And there's a lot of interest in utilizing advanced technology vehicles, medium-duty vehicles, perhaps electric, that would allow a cleaner delivery process within that last mile. And so we're exploring ways to be able to incentivize or identify areas that can help bring that type of technology to market. I guess I kind of sped through that presentation pretty quickly. My last slide here references a couple of websites. One of them is our auction proceeds website, which ARB, as the agency responsible for helping provide broad guidance to the agencies are actually handing out the money. So we have a website which provides links to all of those agency activities. And so that's the auction proceeds website. And then the one below that is off of the auction proceeds website, but that one has links specifically and directly to the agencies that are administering the programs. So again, the main points that I wanted to make here was that implementation, whether we're talking about it in big state programs or big funding opportunities, it happens at the local level. It happens in communities that kind of see this as a investment opportunity for the direction that California is already headed. The price signals from cap and trade, the policy signals from AB 32, and really the momentum of the climate change effort is bringing about a lot of opportunities that the state is wanting to come in and partner with those private investments. The final thing, it kind of harkens back to my college days, having walked around a little bit this morning. I took a course on how policy change in in state government or national government works. You know, what conditions need to happen? And one of the classes that I took focused on this idea that policy punctuated transformational change happens not when an individual agency or an individual company or a person decides that's what's going to happen, but a lot of components need to come into play. State government support in terms of the infrastructure, public policy, discussions at the local, regional, and state level have to happen. People need to be interested in it to support the propositions and to support the elected officials who are pushing these items forward. And so back in the early 1990s, when the Clean Air Act amendments came around, that was an area where criteria pollutant emission reduction was a big deal. That's where we got a lot of the advances on that area. It's a very similar and a very analogous situation over the last several years with climate change. You know, we are in an era of opportunity to be able to make some real change, and there's a lot of opportunity out there. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Please join me in thanking Mr. Ito. I did want to note, for the benefit of the audience and those that are joining us on the live web stream that we have going at the same time, that these slides will be available either by going to my select committee website on climate change and AB 32 implementation, or we'll be putting up a link on my regular website by just Googling Fran Pavley, and if you'd like to do the same, that would be great as well. But thank you very much for those presentations. And for those of you who don't know, one reason California is so unique on these really innovative programs is, other than at the national government, we're the only state who has some of the best and brightest individuals in the world working right for us. The Air Resources Board and the Energy Commission with their partners at the PUC are really second to none. And I don't think a week goes by in Sacramento without people coming from other countries to learn from them. And so even though some of us may pass legislation and it gets signed by the governor, the hard work, the implementation, is because we have these outstanding agencies with top engineers and scientists and policymakers at our disposal. With 38 million people, California can take the lead on some of these critical state, national, and global issues. So I want to thank both of you for your leadership role on this. We know where the hard work comes in behind the scenes. So Assemblymember Bocanegra, did you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Ito, CARB, in regards to the affordable housing component from the cap and trade proceeds, I understand that the Strategic Growth Council is in charge of that. But is there any discussion or dialogue between that affordable housing program with the Growth Council and the state's regular affordable housing programs with the Housing and Community Development Department? Or is it incumbent upon the developer of that affordable housing to be working on the two guidelines at the same time?
So the Strategic Growth Council is made up of several state agencies, one of which is taking a rather strong role in the development of the affordable housing and sustainable communities component is the Housing and Community Development Department. So it is very much integrated with their programs. One of the objectives of this year's appropriations was to utilize existing programs that could be tailored very quickly to fit the objectives of the cap and trade proceeds, but also on the affordable housing side, align with where HCD was already going on some of their priorities. So yes, they're very much integrated.
Had a follow-up question on that. When you're looking at affordable housing, couldn't it be a double win by also putting in energy efficient housing at the same time, not only to make sure there's that nexus that we're all striving for, because we know, especially in multi-dwelling units, investing in energy efficiency has magnificent opportunities, providing additional disposable income for people to expend in their communities. So is that a component that you're looking at too, not just affordable housing per se, but the weatherization of the homes or the double pane windows and things that will reduce their utility bills?
Yes. One of the objectives of a lot of these programs is, while it has a focus on affordable housing and sustainable communities, but it's to draw the connections of how the system beyond just that objective works together. And so they look at the building as well as the transportation system that it's being placed into as well. So it is the purpose is to look at it in a more integrated fashion.
I want to just add too that historically the way we've done energy efficiency in lowish income housing is by kind of going there and acknowledging the kind of difficulty of getting folks to pay for it themselves and not having necessarily financing. So there's been a lot of direct install programs where the utility ratepayers through the PUC and the utilities themselves, or through CSD, who's the agency within HCD that does the low income program with federal money and now some state money. Where they've just gone in and they've installed stuff. They've gone in and improved those dwellings, weatherization and fridges and tune-ups of the HVAC system and all that. And so I think, so that's all worked well. I think it's been, tremendously, it's about 10% of the overall investment in energy efficiency in the state goes focused on those, lower income families, units. So I think we do have a challenge to solve to now really, if we want to scale it up across multifamily, if we really want to get the deep savings in those units, that traditional way that we've gone about it isn't going to get us there completely. So I think, again, it's a place where there's a lot of creativity needed to work with the owners of those units, if they're subsidized housing or subsidized mortgages or something like that, to figure out what those pressure points are, to when they are going to refinance or when they're going to do a rehab of a building, to really go deep and really make them even zero net energy if we can. So figure out how to sort of think big and put the tools in place so that they can be covered, so that they're not taking a huge risk, so that really we're all kind of bearing the overall risk, because we already are bearing the risk, right? We're bearing the risk of not doing that. So so I think there are good agencies in place. There's a lot of expertise in place. But again, we need to sort of put it on steroids a little bit.
That will be one of our biggest challenges. You mentioned the BIA, and that's in new construction, but it's the existing homes, particularly multi-dwelling homes and commercial, that need to be retrofitted, if that's the correct word, to become more energy efficiency, and takes a lot of investment. I'm not sure if the first rollout of cap and trade dollars really targeted that, but it's something that I think is critically important as we move towards a 2030, 2050 goals under AB 32, that we capture those energy savings. I had one last question for Commissioner McAllister. You mentioned EPIC as providing some seed money, if you will, for incubating great ideas in the energy efficiency world. What happens, or what can you tell businesses that have done that investment work, and it's really difficult to scale up to make it a successful company? Who fills that void?
So that's a great question, and there's no easy answer to it. The sort of innovation sequence that I put up there, it could have been the curve, the sort of penetration curve for new technology. And a lot of these technologies, they start down with a very small audience of early adopters, and kind of help those early adopters are critical to help them flesh their product out, to figure out what's really going to work. Apple really tests their products and just does. They have a little group of power users that they figure out all the tweaks about, and then before they really scale up a product. And that penetration curve has a thing called the valley of death, which is once a lot of products go up to the 1% penetration or so, and then they just never make it past that. And there are many, many reasons why that's the case. So commercialization, a consumer electronic is very different from another service, a building construction type of, practice or something like that. So it's pretty context specific, but that's part of what I think we could do a lot better in the state is figuring out, we, on the one hand, we don't want to pick winners because that policymakers, I think, are really bad at that. No matter how expert we are and how much years of experience we have, we're not out there with the audience, with the marketplace, day in and day out. And so there's a certain sort of limit to what we can do in terms of say, hey, we're going to mandate this technology that's in the early adoption phase. On the other hand, we need to make sure that there are facilities out there that encourage investors to take risks on technologies. They have a higher appetite for risk probably than the state does, certainly, but that capital is really critical to get a given technology out there in bigger numbers and across that valley of death so it can then be more present in the marketplace and get adopted. So financing, I think, is a real sort of working with capital markets and having long-term policy consistency is a prerequisite for mobilizing that kind of capital, that relatively high-risk capital. And so, we have that in California in large measure. I mean, we have AB 32. Nobody is looking at California and saying, oh, they're waffling on this long-term goal. I mean, it's there. A 2020 goal is there. It would really help if we had a 2030 and a 2050 sort of, statutory goal that we're going to head towards. That would provide the marketplace with even more clarity on where we're going. And then designing our policies such that they're not, giving the market whiplash, that they really are having, in any given case, long-term commitment. That message is out there. Investors can come, they can find companies, and they can be certain that this is going to remain a priority and it's not going to go away with the next election. I think that kind of messaging and clarity would mobilize capital in a way that really would help those risky-ish endeavors get the resources they need.
Thank you very much to both of you, and you're right, sending that clear market signal for the future for investment is absolutely critical. So please join me in thanking these two gentlemen for their presentation. And while they are departing, and hopefully you can stay around, but I understand if your schedules don't allow you to spend the day with us here. Let's call up our second panel, and I'll introduce them as they move forward. And it's a perfect segue from the end of that discussion to this one. This panel is titled, they'll be speaking on pathways to clean tech job growth and innovation. Eric Steeb, he's the executive director of LACI at CSUN, works with more than 100 early stage companies each year, honing their business strategies and connecting them with investors, customers, business partners, and advisors. Eric's business experience includes senior management roles in high-tech marketing, sales, and business development, most recently with Intel. At Intel, Eric led the company's Europe, Middle East, and Africa marketing organization and led a worldwide sales division delivering over $6 billion in annual revenue. Also joining Eric, who's just coming up, is Jose Blanco, plant manager at Chatsworth Products. Henry and I had the great pleasure of touring that facility in my district, but close to your district. Has over 15 years of manufacturing operations experience, creating great jobs for the Valley. Currently, Jose is the plant manager at Chatsworth Products, a 100% employee-owned company. There's a model for a good work environment, where he's worked there for over 8 years. And last coming up is Max Aram, CEO of Pick My Solar, spearheaded one of California State University Northridge's largest student-run projects while pursuing his master's degree at CSUN. That's all at the same time, I guess. The project, still in development, was based off an app concept he delivered to advise students on where to find parking, I could have used that, among the crowded student lots. It has earned over $100,000 in funding and will dramatically reduce the school's carbon footprint. So thank you to all three of you for coming, and they'll be doing about 5-minute presentations each, and then we'll open up for questions from us and move on to our next panel. So thank you very much. Eric, did you want to start off, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Senator Pavley and Assemblymember Bocanegra, for having us here today. I am part of the Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator. We're a nonprofit organization that was set up by the City of Los Angeles and the Department of Water and Power to help create manufacturing jobs and jobs in the center of Los Angeles, but we've taken that to that view to across Los Angeles. We work with early stage companies to help them get traction through the market, to help them get through the valley of death that you heard Commissioner McAllister talking about in his presentation. And we do this for a couple of reasons. Number one, from a Cleantech perspective, we believe the innovations that are going to solve the problems to our energy and economic challenges will come out of universities and come out of garages. They generally don't come out of large incumbent companies. So we specifically focus on supporting startup companies. If you can go to the first slide, please. We believe it's not only good for the environment, we also believe it's quite good for the economy in terms of creating jobs, and we're not the only one that believe that. The White House study showed that companies less than 5 years old over the last 3 decades created 44 million new jobs, and effectively over the last 3 decades, that is all of the net new jobs created. Those come out of startup companies. Grant Thornton and the EDA also found that incubation is quite effective in helping those businesses start and succeed, and the fact that early stage companies create much more valuable jobs than infrastructure projects or building projects, because these are lasting jobs. And I'll show you some of the LACI statistics on our companies in terms of the lifetime value of those jobs. It's also quite good in terms of return on investment, economic investment from your cities. Public ROI in a dollar generates from $1 in public funding on incubation operations generally yields about $30 in tax revenues. It's a study found from the National Business Incubator Association. And more importantly, incubators really help companies succeed and get through that valley of death that Commissioner McAllister was talking about. The success rate of incubated companies is 87% based on an NBIA study. That's about double that of non-incubated companies. So companies getting the support, and I'll describe a little of that support in just a minute, really help those businesses succeed. And more importantly for us as a community is incubated companies tend to stay in the communities that they are incubated. So our intention is help startup companies get established here in Los Angeles, but also make sure they stay here in Los Angeles in our community. You can go to the next slide, please. So LACI has been going 3 years now. We're a happy 3-year-old. I like to think that I can stand up against most 3-year-olds. We offer a few things to the startup companies that we deal with. First is these are all very small companies. Max, when he joined us at LACI, was a 2-person company. We help them with plug-and-play space. So they need office space. We want to take all of the complexities of getting office space off the table for these companies so they can focus on their innovations. So first is just making sure that they have a space to call home, they have access to telephones and shipping and conference rooms and all those things that they need to act as an effective business. But probably most importantly are the second 2 things. First is executive coaching. We link these companies up with former CEOs of companies that have walked this path before, have built companies, have run companies, got those companies funded. Kevin Randolph, my partner here at LACI at CSUN, is one of those executives in residence that we link up with these companies. We have a group of 60 mentors and advisors that help these companies in that fashion. We also have core curriculum, you could say, that we develop for these companies to help them really understand. They're all quite good technologists, but very often they don't know all they need to know about building a business and navigating markets, and we help them through that. And then finally is access to networks. Some of the biggest things facing companies obviously is access to capital. All of the people at the Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator have strong ties to investment capital. But we also have good contact to get them help those companies get first customers. One of the hardest things in getting through that valley of death is getting first referenceable customer that is actually proven that they value the solution that this company has come up with more than they value their money, and that's not a trivial task. So these are kind of the ways that we help our company. So if you can go to the next slide, please. As I mentioned, we're 3 years old. We think we've been quite effective. We've been in downtown Los Angeles for all of this time. In our 36 months of traction, we've had 28 companies come through the program. I won't go through all the details here, but you can see 2 circled items on the slide. The first is a focus on customer development for those companies. Last year, all of our companies combined did about $10 million in revenue. These are all startup companies, so this is quite a good number for startups. And this year, that number is projected to be $30 million, which is fantastic. We've helped them triple revenue over the course of the past year. This is obviously a mix. Many of our companies are still pre-revenue. Some of our companies, a little over half of the companies are now post-revenue and growing quite rapidly. And then there's also a total investment slide here, circle here. We actually just passed the $50 million mark. Max, I'm not sure if you were the one, but Max is in the middle of a fundraising round right now and was one of the companies that helped push us past the $50 million total equity, total money raised by these companies. And one more slide, please. And the other thing is this economic impact of jobs. So we take a look at jobs created and the economic impact. There's some references down here of where these statistics come from, but the lifetime value, we look at a 5-year value of a job created. We represent that we've created about $100 million worth of economic value for the city of Los Angeles. So we're not only helping the companies in our incubator, we're helping through direct jobs, indirect jobs, and the tax revenues that come through those. Okay, next slide, please. For us, we've been really excited. We've called this last summer our Summer of Love. We've had some fantastic recognition across the markets. We were one of 3 incubators across the country recognized and funded by the Department of Energy to help build clean energy-focused clusters. For us, it was the LA Cleantech Incubator, the Cleantech Open, Prospect Silicon Valley, which is a test and demonstration center up in Silicon Valley, as well as BCD Consulting Group. We were selected to help establish a Cleantech cluster across the state of California. There was another organization out of Austin, Texas, and one more out of Chicago that were selected. This is a 3-year grant from the Department of Energy to build these out. We were recognized by J.P. Morgan Chase as one of the, as their most advanced small business cluster development organization, and received grants around that. And there's a few more on here you can read if you'll click one more time. One of the more interesting one for us is the University Business Incubator Index out of the Netherlands reviewed 800 incubators around the world and judged them on 28 different categories of success metrics and ranked us number 6 in the world, which was fantastic, we think, for a 3-year-old. So really excited about some of the recognition that we've received. If you go one more slide. One of the things we're most excited about is CSUN here. There were some fantastic people here at Cal State Northridge, including Julia Potter that's in the back there, and Vice President Gonzalez, who you heard from this morning, who had the insight and the initiative to really want to change the focus of Cal State University and not just create great workforce coming out of the university, but also help the students and faculty here craft their own destiny if they believe that's an opportunity for them. We joke downtown that the Cleantech Incubator downtown is equally inconvenient for all, so we're really excited to bring the best practices of the Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator here to Cal State Northridge. We're also quite excited about the environment here, the legacy, the manufacturing legacy and the engineering legacy of both Cal State Northridge and the aerospace industry that built up here is quite exciting for us. A lot of those technologies leverage right into Cleantech businesses. So one more slide, please. This is my last slide here. So the reason we're quite excited about Cal State Northridge, we have partnerships with Caltech, UCLA, USC, and Cal State Northridge. Northridge is quite unique for us from, number one, the initiative and innovation here on campus. Number 2, the collaboration across all of the schools. So from the president on down through all the deans, the university here is really quite collaborative in helping establish this capability. But it's also the strength that CSUN represents. They have a 56-year history here, over 200,000 alumni, 40,000 students a year, 4,000 faculty, and they turn out 4,000 engineers every year. That is a fantastic resource for us to leverage as a community to really build on build the economic strengths here, but also build great solutions to some of the environmental and economic problems that we're facing. We're quite excited to work with the engineering school here and the business school here, which are quite storied. We will not be focused here just on clean tech because Cal State Northridge also has fantastic strength in their education school, in their arts, media, and communication schools, health, human development, and more. The focus here at Cal State Northridge is help the students and faculty and alumni as well build a reputation, mindset of innovation and entrepreneurship, and support them in doing that. So we have about 2,000 square feet of temporary space here on campus. We're up on Devonshire Downs, if you know the campus here. The old fair site is our temporary space, and hopefully we'll be moving over to Reseda Boulevard quite soon to be our permanent home where we can support companies. We've been going for a month now. We launched officially on September 16th, so we're quite excited. We've got our first 2 companies in. Max, who you'll hear from in just a minute, is the first company out of Cal State Northridge. We're quite excited about what Max is doing. But the effort here at CSUN is not just about CSUN. It is about CSUN being one of the economic foundations of building the San Fernando Valley economy and helping craft businesses here and create great solutions. So that is it for my presentation. One more slide. If you care to get in contact with us, certainly see me here. We've got quite a few of the LACI companies on display here, so catch them after the event, or feel free to find us on the web or email me. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you very much, Eric. And all this has happened in the last 3 years, correct?
Yes.
So, great work. Jose, if you wouldn't mind, I think I will ask Max to speak next, because what he's saying goes right with the incubator story, and then that way we'll look at Chatsworth product success on a separate level. Max, you were here, and you're involved in Cal State Northridge being one of the chosen sites for incubator hubs. Let's hear your story, and then we'll hear from our last speaker.
Yeah, great to be back home. So I'm going to update the bio that you had. I graduated in 2012, but it seems that I'm not going to leave school at all. So I got involved in sustainability, working on energy consumption trend for Cal State Northridge with Dr. Helen Cox from Institute for Sustainability. And we looked into the impact of energy consumption, the green energy sources on the trend of carbon footprint of our school. And realized that within all the technologies that our school adapted, solar technology is the most reliable one. So that's led me later to my startup, which I'm going to talk about later. But while I was in school, I initiated some green projects. And the main focus was on the technology that you mentioned, CSUN Smart Parking. So I think everyone here in this room dealt with the parking this morning. It's chaotic. We have 40,000 students, we have 10,000 parking spots, and we sell those spots to 30,000 students. So you do the math, it's brutal. So we came up with the idea to develop a smartphone app for CSUN students to manage the traffic between the structures around campus to help students find the parking spots. Or if there's no parking spots available, they should just look into other alternative solutions. Maybe they take bus to school. So on that project, I worked with 2 other students and 1 faculty member, Dr. Kaplan, and we developed the whole technology from the ground up, and we could achieve the highest accuracy of parking management systems in the market. So we are planning to commercialize the technology in 2015, next year. However, there are lots of hurdles on campus to get the approval and the funding. So while I was waiting for the approvals, I pursued my second passion, which was solar. I wanted to promote this technology, and I was interested in the sales side of solar. So I took training courses in different solar companies, and pretty soon I realized it's a chaotic market. Solar installers are, solar industry in general is suffering from lack of transparency. Installers do whatever it takes to get their foot in the door in front of the homeowner and try to hard sell, use all tactics to hard sell this great technology, and it's not working out. So in one of the training courses, I met my business partner, Chris, and then after a couple of months, when we put together the whole idea behind Pick My Solar, which is creating a platform like Kayak or Expedia for residential solar market. We thought if we step in between the installers and the homeowners, to be homeowners advocate, it will solve this problem. And we worked together for 6 months working on the technology, and then joined LACI. It's been a great asset for us to kickstart the company. And after that, basically the whole company, the whole idea is that homeowners come to us, they sign up, provide some information, and then we create a project, post it on our site, and we have a network of vetted quality installers that they place their bids on the projects, and then we analyze the bids and evaluate them based on more than 20 different factors, and advise the homeowner on top 3 bids on their home. If they decide to go solar, then we request a contract from the installers, and then we get the homeowner to e-sign the contract. Basically, we facilitate the sales and try to stand by the homeowner throughout the whole entire process to make sure that the homeowners receive the promised service. If you look into the numbers in solar industry, in the last quarter, in the last 2 quarters of 2014, homeowners in California paid around $4.56 per watt for their solar system. For average 6 kilowatt system, they paid around $28,000. On our website, this price is around $22,000. It's $6,000 less than market average. And the reason for that is because installers are competing against each other to deliver service to the homeowner, and we also reduce their customer acquisition. The soft cost of solar is the only factor left in the price reduction. So the price of solar dropped dramatically in the last 4 years, but this hurdle, the last part, is the soft cost of solar, which installers are struggling to reduce that. So by doing that and creating transparency in the market, we could achieve a much lower price, and also we provide the analysis on top 3 bids on their home. So doing a simple math, in 2013, homeowners overpaid by $500 million for their solar system, and that number is going to be more than $1 billion this year. So it's a huge problem that we're addressing. So for the job growth, thanks for putting a spotlight on the innovation on Cleantech in San Fernando Valley. And we started the company, 2 of us, and then in July we added Victor Pantin, our CFO, and another project manager. So we have 4 people on W2, and we have 6 other 1099 employees that work with us, and we have 2 interns. And the company, we launched the new website almost a month ago, and we're starting the marketing and advertising as of last week. And in order to catch up with the demand, we have to add at least 2-3 project managers every quarter. So we are creating jobs. We are solving a huge problem in the solar market. And we are excited to be part of LACI and be part of the family of CSUN. And it's a very exciting journey.
Thank you very much, Max. Good luck to you. And now back to Jose Blanco. He's plant manager at Chatsworth Products, Inc., and they do some amazing work on energy efficiency. Please share that with us.
Well, you know, it's so fascinating. I mean, I'm here it looks like we're here at the right time. I hear this 2 gentlemen talking about energy efficient, and right now, as we speak, I have a quote, you know, about to install a solar system in my house, okay? And I haven't reviewed it in full details, but you know, maybe I'll just get your business card, right? And I was whispering at my partner Renee over there that I want to look into a solar system for our plant and Chatsworth facility for next year. So we're having a meeting on the budgeting next year, so we'll go ahead and put that in the budget. So perfect timing. So, but anyhow, first I would like to start by thanking Senator Pavley here and everybody that's involved in putting this whole event together, and you know, and giving us the opportunity to be here. We're truly honored. My story is a little interesting, and I guess that's where you know I want to begin. Is I came to the United States back in 1988. Okay. And we lived in a small little apartment. It was a family of 6, you know, my two parents and 4 kids. And you guys can imagine just, you know, being in a single apartment, okay? And, you know, I was one of the ones that used to sleep in the closet. And so anyhow, that went by. And I saw my dad coming in every day from work, filthy dirty. He used to do gardening. And, you know, there was a moment in time there when I said that education was not an option for me, okay? I didn't want to live like that. It was just not an option. And so I pursued my career. And at the beginning, I simply wanted to work. I wanted to have a degree of some sort to make money. And so I ended up at ITT Technical Institute. So I worked there. I mean, I got there 5 days out of the week, you know, 5 days a week, you know, from 6 to 10. So eventually I graduated with an AA in electronics and engineering technology. And so I went out there and worked in the field and found out I didn't like it. You know, it was just not for me, okay? So I said, okay, well, you know, and at that point, you know, 3 months after I graduated, I went to work for a electronics company. And so I remember my boss always bragging about how much money he made and that he, you know, was entitled to call the shots. And so I said, I want to be like him. So there's two motivations, and in essence, inspiration for me was my parents and my, you know, my first boss that I had, right, graduating from ITT. And I said, man, I want to be like him one day. I don't know what it's going to take, but I want to be like him. So I went on and enrolled at Mission College with a business, in a business management program, was there for 2 years. And then I got my associates in business management, came here, and then they tell me, well, you know, you haven't met the general education requirements. You got to go back again if you want to be enrolled at CSUN. So I went back to Mission College again, spent another 2 years there. You know, so I got another degree in liberal arts. So so then I finally was able to get enrolled at CSUN, and it was, you know, 2 years later. And so I spent here a year, and then I started doing the math, and I said, well, if I take at a rate of 2 classes per year or per semester, I'm going to spend here another 6 years. I can't afford that, so I need to move on. And I ended up at University of Phoenix, so I have my Bachelor's of Sciences, Business Management from CSUN. Why am I saying all of this? So about 3 months after I graduated from UOP, University of Phoenix, I submitted a resume to Chatsworth, CPI. You know, 3 months went by, didn't hurt a thing, and I said, you know, they must not, I mean, I'm not in the running. So 3 months later, I get this call from Nancy, and I didn't even remember who this company was, but I said, okay, I'm gonna go in there, right? And so the one thing that was fascinating about CPI, the minute I went in there, you know, and I used to hold a production manager position, and the only position they had available there was a production supervisor. So I said, you know, they started walking me through all the benefits, you know, and for the most part, right, 401k plan, you can find those benefits in other companies, right? But one thing that is very hard to find is ESOP, Employee Stock Ownership Plan, where we get the opportunity, and I emphasize this with all the folks that I work with, is that if I wake up in the morning and I make a decision that has a direct impact to my bottom line, right? And that's exactly how CPI is structured. And so I went as supervisor. A year later, I had the opportunity to apply for a production management position, and now, you know, I am the plant manager. And so I'm really excited. And now I use the same example to help the people that are behind me, you know, to scale up. You know, there's people that started in assembly. They're now purchasing buyers. I have people that are started in, again, assembly. They're now programmers, okay? Last year, for example, we only had about 60 direct labor employees. This year, we're ending up at about 97, okay? And the company will convert most of those individuals next year to regular full-time employees, okay? So, so anyhow, the benefits, and that was my motivation, right? And we're paving the way for the employees to have the same success rate that we're having. So what does CPI do, okay? So, and I had some coaching from Mr. Sal sitting across the room here, and the way he describes it is, You know, I mean, they are selling the product. So we have revitalized, and I'm quoting Sal now, the way data centers have been built in the past to include unique ways of maintaining complex network equipment while reducing operating expenses, mainly in power and cooling, right? We have seen operating expenses anywhere from 30 to 50% improvement simply by managing thermal behavior. And so that's what we do at CPI. We sell enclosures, systems to manage energy, to manage hot and cold, and we also sell open infrastructure. You know, there isn't, I guess, one company here, I mean, that we can think of that we do not sell product to. Yahoo, Amazon, IBM, Microsoft, what else? CSUN, right? So anyhow, that's really the story of my story and the company that I work for.
And there's a lot of kids growing up in the San Fernando Valley today who want to find that same kind of career opportunity. So thank you for sharing that with us. Assemblymember Bocanegra, any questions of our three panelists? They spoke on pathways to Cleantech, job growth, and innovation.
Well, I appreciate everybody's testimony to the Cleantech folks. I appreciate everything because I've been reading up on this and how it started from the mayor's office, and you've been up and going for the last 3 years in terms of the sustainability, because I've seen other types of incubators come and go. What kind of commitment do you have from the city or the feds or the state to make sure that you have this sustainable focus and you've created some kind of infrastructure that's long-lasting? Because it's, from the sound of it, it's fantastic.
Yeah, the city and the Department of Water and Power have really been fantastic from their commitment to the Cleantech incubator. We have we've been funded for the last 3 years by the city. It started out from the city and the Department of Water and Power as about 90% of our funding. That funding from both the city and Department of Water and Power has remained consistent, but in your question around sustainability, we want to make sure that should that funding disappear at some point because of other needs of the city, that we are self-sustaining. So we've been working on developing corporate relationships and other partner relationships. We've been working on grants and that sort of thing. So the city funding is now down to about 50% of our operating budget today from our start 3 years ago. We expect next year that that'll be down to about a third of our budget, and the intent is over the next couple of years that we continue to drive that down. So it's we start providing more return to the city. We're less dependent on the city, and the city can leverage its resources elsewhere if required, so that we are self-sustaining. One of the other fantastic things is that the Department of Water and Power owns a large facility downtown in the Cleantech corridor where we are currently located in a temporary facility that will give us 30,000 square feet of incubation space and another 10,000 square feet of maker space, so manufacturing equipment that our companies can use. That has all been dedicated to us by the Department of Water and Power. That will also help keep us self-sustaining because the rents from Department of Water and Power are quite low on that property to help us run. So that is a long-term commitment from DWP.
Are you involved, Eric, at all in looking at the success story of the Cleantech incubators and observing from your higher level there some of the opportunities or challenges, obstacles along the way so that they can become successful business models? Chatsworth Products is an amazing success story here and globally, frankly, and with an 100% employee-owned company. It's a great model. But can you talk a little bit about what happens after the incubation? Or do you see a real focus and excitement here in the San Fernando Valley for potentially becoming even more of a leader of clean tech companies?
It's I think a two-part question. Number one, will we commit each of our companies, because these are complex problems that these companies are dealing with, they're building products, they're not, in Max's case, it is building a website, so he can get quite early to success, but many of these other companies are actually building big systems. Both Tims that are here from Ecoponics is a renewable energy efficient farm that's an extremely complex system that will take years to develop and refine and get those things deployed. So we commit to each of our companies 5 years, so we work with them quite a long time. We hope to maintain commitment relationships with those companies as they spin out. And then from a best practices perspective, we're very lucky to be supported by the City of Los Angeles. So Fred Walty, who's our executive director, travels with Mayor Garcetti when he goes on trips around the world and meets with organizations like our own elsewhere around the world, so we can share best practices, get new ideas from them, and actually connect this network of incubators around the world so that as Ecoponics, for instance, gets successful here in the Los Angeles area, we can help connect them into Mexico or Germany or Finland or China or elsewhere.
Well, it's quite a success story and very exciting for Los Angeles to really be promoting this 21st century job opportunities. So thank you all three for your participation. Please join me in thanking our presenters. Now, while they are leaving, we have one more panel, and we're going to focus really in on the Valley, because today that's what we're focused on, actually, the San Fernando Valley and the clean tech economy. And we have with us two speakers I think you'll find very interesting, one local and one that has a broader county perspective. Our two speakers will be Jeff Joyner. He's co-chair of the LA County Economic Development Corporation. He's an attorney where he advises clean tech businesses on startup funding, intellectual property, IPOs, and public incentives. He's also a limited partner in a clean technology venture fund that focuses on energy and water. He was named one of the 75 top IP litigators in California by the Daily Journal and selected by Forbes as one of America's premier lawyers. He's here to testify on behalf of the LA County Economic Development Corporation, where he co-chairs the e-mobility task force, which is really focused on electric transportation. So those of you here for transportation issues, Jeff's going to address some of your concerns. And also with them is Dr. Bruno Osorno, Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering right here at Cal State Northridge, and he has taught electric power systems, power electronics, and electrical machines for over 30 years and published over 20 technical papers. His current research interests are in the smart grid, renewable energy, and computer applications and power systems. Welcome, both of you. We look forward to your presentations. Jeff, why don't you begin?
Good morning, Senator Pavley, Assemblymember Bocanegra. I am the co-chair of the Los Angeles Economic Development Corporation's E4 Mobility Alliance. As the Senator mentioned, I'm also a shareholder at the law firm Greenberg Traurig, where I lead the clean tech practice. I'm an intellectual property attorney, also in government relations, also an active limited partner in one of the first clean tech venture capital funds in California, and on the leadership council of the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator that you heard from earlier from Eric. So I'll give you a quick background, if we can go to the next slide, on the E4 Mobility Alliance, which is why I'm here today, and thanks for having us. We appreciate the opportunity. E4 Mobility was founded in 2010. There were 3 of us original members. This was around the time of the reintroduction of the electric vehicle. It was hard to project at that time how quickly sales would move, how many sales, how many manufacturers, how many cars. I had a little bit of experience. I had leased the EV1 almost 14 years prior to having founded the E4 Mobility Alliance with others, and that lease program had ended in 2002. I believe around the same time the senator had introduced a clean car bill, which you've heard about AB 32 today, but the senator was involved way earlier than that on these issues, and we really appreciate her efforts along the way. Due in large part to both of you, California has shown that advancements in technology can support not only electric vehicles, but the way that we transport people, goods, water, and energy. So today, our E4 Mobility Alliance has 650 leaders in advanced transportation. We want to grow a robust advanced transportation cluster. So what does that mean? It means we want to not only focus on the consumption of products, and the legislature has done a wonderful job of incentivizing people to purchase these clean products, cars, and things of that nature. But we also want to make sure that we are incentivizing and building an ecosystem for the research, development, and production of these cars and the infrastructure for advanced transportation, which will bring jobs and economy to the region. What does advanced transportation mean? Well, I mean, we've gone beyond the reintroduction of electric cars in the past 4 years. We now also focus on automotive design, fleets, and transit vehicles, which are starting to get more attention, but we still need to focus on those more. Smart transportation, connected car, energy storage, smart grid and charging infrastructure, waste to energy, which I'll talk about briefly today, logistics and good movement, alternative fuels, and car sharing. So the Alliance has expanded its focus, and we're seeing lots of great progress in these areas. Transportation obviously is an important area to focus on. Commissioner McAllister, you may remember the slide he put up earlier, the largest greenhouse gas emitter is the transportation sector. So these are all important areas to focus on. If we can go to the next slide. So we were asked here today to give a status on the advanced transportation industry and the infrastructure deployment. So first I'll go through, and I know we're running a little slow on time, so I'll go through these maps and charts a little quickly, but as the Senator mentioned, they'll be up on her website, so you can go back and refer to them. But I will show you some maps and charts that show the types of vehicles, where they are, and where the infrastructure deployment is. Second, I'll give you some examples of opportunities for advanced transportation. Third, show you that there are advanced transportation companies in the Los Angeles area, actually hundreds of them. And fourth, I'll explain the challenges and obstacles in Los Angeles and the San Fernando Valley specifically for creating this advanced transportation cluster. And then finally, I'll close with some suggestions as to how we can address those challenges. So if we can go to the next slide. This first slide is the Center for Sustainable Energy, where I believe it was Commissioner McAllister had been before. They manage the California Electric Vehicle Rebate Program. This chart that they created shows that LA County has rebated approximately 20,000 electric vehicles. I think there's another 6% of folks that have purchased electric vehicles that did not apply for a rebate, so there are more than 20,000. But the interesting thing to note on this chart is that LA and Orange County is bucking the trend in the other metropolitan areas, which is interesting. In San Francisco and San Diego, you have more zero-emission vehicles than you do plug-in hybrid vehicles. So full battery electric vehicles in San Francisco and San Diego. Here, we have more plug-in hybrids than we do zero-emission. And that's a trend we want to watch because it could affect how we deploy our infrastructure, what types of chargers, and where we deploy that infrastructure here in the Los Angeles region. Next slide. Also, CSE, the Center for Sustainable Energy, shows that the #1 reason that people purchase an electric car is fuel cost. The second reason is environmental impact, and that's closely followed by the ability to have access to the carpool lane as a single driver. Rebates are also an extremely important factor, both at the state and the federal level. If we can go to the next slide. Thanks to some data from the Department of Energy, you can see here that the Los Angeles region does have quite a significant number of electric charging stations. However, it is not enough. We do need more charging stations. Also, some of these charging stations you see here are not in the right locations for EV drivers, and that's because there was some federal funding that supported the installation of chargers for data collection, That moved quickly, and it happened really before there was a lot of planning as to where the charger should go. We now have worked with, at E4, we've worked with several institutions. There's been many studies. We now know where most electric cars are during the day. We also know where most of them are at night. So just something to think about. In the future, we do need more electric car chargers. Next slide, please. Plug-in electric infrastructure gaps and opportunities. Two of the major challenges are workplace charging and multifamily residential charging. Workplace charging continues to be a roadblock for some people because numerous folks have very large commutes. Multifamily housing in Los Angeles, if you don't already know it, more people live in multifamily housing than they do in single-family homes in LA. So this is a really important factor. The settlement with NRG, which has fast charging being installed free of charge in commercial locations, and also a 50% share in the Southern California Edison region for commercial and multifamily, is one of the opportunities that's addressing this. There's also a planning grant opportunity at the California Energy Commission that provides for public agency dollars to look at deployment of infrastructure. Through the years, there has been opportunities at both the federal and state level that we've taken advantage of. The one thing that we want to be sure and not lose attention on and focus on is newer technologies that will be disruptive to how electric cars are used today. One example is there is a new startup called MOEV. It's a UCLA spin-out, and they have developed a charger that allows 4 cars to charge on one charger because of a management system. So as these new technologies come out, we need to incentivize them. We need to have demonstration projects and get these new technologies out there as the industry continues to grow. Also, we want to think beyond passenger vehicles. We want to look at electric buses. We want to look at also electric trucks. You heard from Mr. Ito earlier that the Air Resources Board has $200 million from cap and trade for low carbon transportation, and they are addressing some of these issues with buses and trucks. So those are great opportunities. Next slide. Fuel cell electric vehicle infrastructure. This is an interesting map. This shows that LA and Orange County will be the largest recipient of hydrogen fueling stations. The yellow dots are future stations. The green dots are operating stations. We know from the history with electric vehicles that the chicken and egg problem that we had 18 years ago with electric vehicles, we also have with hydrogen fuel cell electric vehicles. The OEMs tend to say we need more chargers before we put more cars out, and the folks installing the chargers are incentivizing them. The agencies say we want to see the cars before we install the chargers. Some OEMs are focusing and looking at fuel cell electric vehicles to help satisfy the zero-emission vehicle mandate. So this is an important area. One opportunity that comes out of this area is to look at where we get our hydrogen. There are new technologies that need to be incentivized and looked at, and demonstration projects for the ability to develop hydrogen and other renewable fuels from waste. So if we can go to the next slide. This is also another map that shows that we also have a large variety of other alternative fueling stations and infrastructure in the region: propane, biodiesel, E85, and natural gas. If we can go to the next slide. So waste to energy is a key opportunity. It's something that people don't always think about. We have an urgent need in Los Angeles. There are no new landfills being created in Los Angeles. The landfills are almost full. Those jobs at those landfills, those waste management jobs, they will either be transported out of state as we ship the waste out of state, or unless we create waste-to-energy jobs, those jobs will be lost. So one thing that you want to consider is that this waste-to-energy industry, it's new, but the LEDC did a study on it recently, and some of the examples are up here on the slide. There are real full-time equivalent jobs being created. You have the City of Commerce refuse facility creating 39 jobs. There's 4 others up there listed. I won't go through them because we're short on time. So as these landfills fill up, as we don't create additional landfills with additional jobs, we should be creating waste-to-energy facilities. And these can also create fuels as well. In Los Angeles, if you didn't know it, obviously we do, it is commonplace to recycle, but even with recycling, some of the statistics I pulled from 2012 show that LA County disposed of about 9 million tons of municipal solid waste, and that equates to about 4.8 pounds per person per day. Only 600,000 tons of this waste was converted at a waste-to-energy facility. Almost 2 million tons was exported out of LA County to the detriment of our state and the national climate change goals. So instead of transporting that waste out of the state, instead of those landfills overfilling, we should look at waste-to-energy possibilities. Next slide, please. Companies in advanced transportation, as mentioned at E4, we focus on ensuring that we're leaders in advanced transportation and creating an industry cluster for these companies, that we're not just consumers of the products. We have the ports of Los Angeles, we have LAX, we have great workforce development opportunities, amazing universities like Cal State Northridge. There's no reason we shouldn't have a huge industry cluster around Cleantech and, in particular, for my presentation, advanced transportation. We also look at other industry clusters that can support advanced transportation. 2 of those are aerospace and entertainment, which are large industry clusters, obviously, that have been here for years in the LA region. Some of the companies you may not have even thought of, Aero Environment is one company, which is an aerospace company. They actually invented what became the EV1 over 18 years ago. They're located here in Los Angeles. They deploy electric car chargers even today. They have their headquarters in Monrovia. They have a large manufacturing presence here in the Valley, in Simi Valley. PlugShare, if you have an electric car, you know it. It's a car charging app. That's a local company to Los Angeles. They not only provide locations of car chargers, but they have also solved the interoperability issue, allowing you to pay for your charging session from your phone. We've also had some great legislation that has encouraged electric vehicle supply equipment companies to allow for charging sessions to be charged to their credit cards. And PlugShare is now also looking at vehicle-to-grid options through their app, which is fabulous. There are other companies. Ojai Energy Systems is a battery storage company with military applications. Microsoft and DreamWorks have developed an app for the car in the connected car space. So we have lots going on here in Los Angeles. You may just not know about it, and I'll talk about that as a challenge here in a little bit. Next slide, please. This is a chart, and I don't know if Joanne's here yet, but Joanne Stewart of the LEDC spent a lot of time pulling data. This is data from CalSTART and also the Environmental Defense Fund, as well as our own databases at the E4 Alliance. And this shows that there are hundreds of companies involved in the Cleantech advanced transportation sector in the Los Angeles region. There are a handful of them in the San Fernando Valley. So there is room to grow, and there's no reason it shouldn't. Some of those companies that are out here are and span to Malibu include HRL Laboratories, which was the company that designed the Gills Onion waste-to-energy plant in Oxnard. Qualion, which is a battery company, and Qualion's located in Sylmar. and Electra Craft, which is in Westlake Village, and they produce electric boats, and there are more companies. The reason that this area is ripe for the advanced transportation cluster is obviously where we're sitting. Cal State University Northridge has a specific focus on energy storage and related technologies at their Energy Research Center. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. It's amazing. They also have the collaboration with the Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator, which you've heard about today. And we have great companies that have been located here for years in the aerospace and the entertainment industry, which we mentioned is a space where we can certainly collaborate. So I'll move on to the last 2 slides and go very quickly just to go through the challenges. Obviously, access to capital. Eric talked about it a little bit earlier. Especially contracts and grants need to be kick-started early so that these companies that have cash flow issues can get through those first years. Regulatory, we list CEQA here, mainly just because it's been in the press a little bit lately. And you have quotes from some companies, such as Elon Musk from Tesla, that mentioned it's improbable but not impossible to locate a company in California. There was legislation that was trying to streamline the CEQA for Tesla, but it didn't happen. Tesla moved their Giga facility out of state. Kinkashiro is a rail car manufacturing company that was going to bring hundreds of jobs to Palmdale. There was a CEQA case that was initiated and filed, and they gave up and decided not to locate here. So what do? Unlike Silicon Valley, we do have a difficult time telling our story. I mean, we have all of these technology jobs. If you didn't see the press release or the press conference a few weeks ago by the mayor, Los Angeles now has more high-tech sector jobs than Boston, Cambridge, more than Santa Clara, in other words, Silicon Valley, more than New York and its 5 boroughs. So how do we tell this story? How do we get it out there? How do we counteract the bad press? Some of it I just mentioned. We need advocates, such as both of you, to meet with companies, tell them we want them to be here, we want them to stay here. We need elected officials and others to write opinion pieces, to write editorials, to talk about our strong industry cluster here, to talk about what we do have to offer. These are the types of things that can counteract the bad press and also get the word out there, all the great things we're doing. So the last slide, the E4 Mobility Alliance, we try to help in a lot of different ways. We obviously have targeted business assistance through the LAEDC. Joanne Stewart will be here if you want to talk to her about that. That's free of charge. We have assistance and support on grants. We've been involved in grant applications ourselves. The last thing mentioned on the slide is the E4 Advanced Transportation Center. We received a grant from the California Energy Commission to set up 2 physical locations, and we now have an Advanced Transportation Center at LACI, and we also have one at the Center for Sustainable Energy in San Diego, where people can walk in, entrepreneurs, individuals, companies, learn about the advanced transportation sector, learn how it's growing in the region, and learn how we can serve them and help them. That grant was only to set up the centers, so now we'll be looking for additional funding to move forward with more collaboration. So without delaying any further, I'd like to end my presentation, and again, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joyner. Last but certainly not least, and it's appropriate to bring it back home to Cal State Northridge. And let me share with you what, because of the time limitations here, we're looking forward to your presentations, and then any of us who are on the panel, and if you can stay around for a few minutes, we'll be gathering over by the wonderful booth, so if people want to engage with us individually, we'll be there. We're in a little bit of a time constraint here. Dr. Bruno Orsarno, you're a professor, Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, Cal State Northridge, and you spoke to me a little bit at the beginning about how important it is for engineering degrees coming out of Cal State Northridge for our future 21st century technology. Welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
For allowing us to come to CSUN.
Thank you. We happen to be in the middle of 1.8 million people.
Yes.
And we are the campus of choice in the Valley, I believe. The School of Engineering is the engine, I believe, also of this clean energy and global warming issues. We happen to have around, if you go to the next slide, we happen to have around 4,000 students enrolled. We are one of the fastest growing schools of engineering in the nation. We were ranked #1 a few years ago, and that's because of the great growth that we had. We were fairly small, and then we grew very large. And it's no surprise, clean energy, environmental issues have demanded a great deal of engineers to solve these issues. So we create what we call the workforce that we require to accomplish most of the technical issues that you were talking about. So the jobs are there, our students are getting those jobs. And so what do we do? Well, faculty members, we do the training. We do the transfer of knowledge to them, and we graduate them. I was talking to somebody earlier this morning, and we happen to have a program called Ames Square. This is a mentoring program that is supported by the Department of Education. And our dean, Dean Ramesh, perhaps most of you know him, he has been instrumental. He has been the leadership that we needed in this college to arrive to a lot of stepstones that we have reached. He brought in this $5 million grant to support the underrepresented economically and ethnically students to succeed. And we have changed the lives of so far 200 of them, and there are more to come. So this is where our mission is, and we graduate an average of 500 brand new engineers every year. So it is no mystery, it's no surprise that they do go into the workforce, and they are starting to spread out very fast. If I can go to the next slide, please. So we try to tackle the challenges from our point of view, from the engineering point of view. And we focus on education, obviously, but we do talk about transportation, we talk about healthcare, we have a biomedical program that is quite important. We talk about water and civil engineering, energy, which is my area, environment, climate change, and sustainability, which is something that is interrelated. So, next slide, please. So we happen to be in a globalization issue that all you need to do is to go to our classrooms. And we look like the United Nations, which is wonderful, by the way. And a point of reference for many of you, we are a Hispanic Serving Institution, HSI. Pretty soon, we are reaching the point to be a minority institution. We're getting very close. So that will open a lot of doors for our university in terms of federal grants. And that will allow us to train the workforce from areas of disadvantage, economically disadvantaged students that Raul is fully aware of that. So we are in the middle of all this mix, and as educators, so what do we do? Next slide, please. So we need programs that are outward focused, entrepreneurial engines of innovation. And that's for Eric. So we happen to have, in all the programs, we require to have a capstone project. And that's where the ideas start flourishing. And you'll be surprised how these teams of future engineers, they get together and we give them the ideas as faculty members, and they just bring them to reality, and it works. And it does. Next slide, please. The CSU system, I don't know if you're aware of that, most of you are, and Governor Jerry Brown and other people recognize that we are actually the engine behind the economic activity of this state. We happen to have 23 campuses. This is the ratio of men and women. It's just the important point there is that we happen to have granted 96,152 degrees. Just, that is amazing. And so we happen to be one of the largest campuses. I believe we must be probably 3/4. I know San Diego State is one of them. The other one, probably Long Beach, and we are very large. And so we have the manpower, we have the brainpower, and we are doing our job. Next slide, please. So our school, we happen to have certain areas that we concentrate, which is energy, mechanical and electrical. Materials, we are very, very good in that, manufacturing, robotics, communication, software engineering, entrepreneurship. As I mentioned before, we have around 4,000, it fluctuates, 4,500. 650 of them are graduate students. That is a very healthy number. They help us to do research that we want to do as faculty members. So approximately we graduated 550. We have 68 full-time faculty, but the number that we want to pay attention is the 18 new hires. During the economic downturn that we had, we couldn't hire anybody. So it was a very difficult situation for us. Even our administration, in this case, Harry Hildebrand, he had a foresight. He took a chance, a risk to start hiring before anybody else in the 23 campuses, 1 year or 2 years before they started doing it. And we had the advantage, so now we are ahead of the curve in terms of the new hires and assistant professors that are helping us do our jobs. So these 18 new hires that we have in our college, we are having them to focus a little bit on research, a little more in research, a little more in education, and the paradigm has shifted, so they are coming with new energy and knowledge, state-of-the-art knowledge, as I call it. So we have around 2.5 million euros in grants and contracts, and that keeps growing as we speak. Next slide, please. That's about it. I want to mention one thing. We happen to have in the College of Engineering industrial partners. We do have very close relationships with aerospace industry and industry in general. I'm sure that you're aware of that. We happen to have companies that support our college through the bad, the good, and the bad times. And just to mention a few, there are Aerojet Rocketdyne, which the rocket exploded yesterday, but don't believe what the LA Times says. I just was at Rocketdyne. I had a meeting at 8 o'clock this morning, and they set the record straight. It was a Russian engine that was retrofitted by the previous, not Rocketdyne, it was by AeroVironment, which happened to be part of another company, etc. It's complicated, but they are disclaiming it. Anyway, so they are very close partners with us. Northrop Grumman, we have Amgen, And those are three that they have been with us through the good times and the bad times, and they hire our interns. I happen to be the honors co-op director, and they hire our interns, and they're very extremely happy with them. In the meeting today that I had in Rocketdyne, they were talking about one intern that they have that is a superstar, and they want to hire him. And they are doing all they can do to keep this person, because say an intern like this comes once every 5 years from CSUN. Go figure. In Amgen, our interns go there, and they have interns from MIT, from other, and they compete at the same level. So we have the talent, we have the brain power, and we have the educational tools to compete and to make the Valley succeed. So there is make no mistake, we are on it, as they used to say here on this campus. And that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Please join me in thanking these two presenters. And just note for the record, we understand how fortunate we are in the San Fernando Valley to have Cal State Northridge here, especially as we talk about moving forward in the 21st century with Cleantech investment and technologies and businesses. Having this university here thrive and really putting into effect those majors that create that workforce development that is needed will be a tremendous magnet and an opportunity for attracting those businesses here in the Valley. So I want to, again, thank Cal State Northridge in particular for your mentoring program that you've initiated here. Do you have any questions or comments? We're going to wrap up now and then adjourn by the booths.
Sure, just real quick for Mr. Joyner, regarding one of your slides, you talked about CEQA, and I'm pro-business for a great business climate in California. Some of my colleagues, I'm too pro-business. But I sometimes think that CEQA gets a bad rap. In terms of data, just for this industry, for our panel here, of what we're talking about, is CEQA really a big obstacle for some of the new economy that we're trying to engage in?
Well, and the reason we listed CEQA is because it had been in the press recently, and it was really, the slide was more about how can we counteract bad press. And we all know that companies have many, many different reasons for not locating in an area. So it is perhaps, and I do not know the details. I do know that who filed the CEQA action against the Kinkashiro issue, but that's about as much as I know. You know, I don't know the details of why it didn't work out with respect to CEQA, and I don't, you know, I know that there are other reasons for those companies not locating here. So really the slide was more to not give CEQA a bad name, but was to show that there is press out there. And for example, like yourself, that probably knows way more about it than I do. If there are great things about it, you know, let's come out and talk about it and get something out in the press to disclose that, hey, well, that's not why the company didn't locate here, or we were working through those issues, or, you know.
You know, perhaps the bigger point for us to highlight that you impressed upon me was the fact that, you know, here in Southern California, at least, we don't really tell our story about how proactive we are and the kinds of industry assets we have.
Right.
And perhaps that we should.
Absolutely.
I want to thank everyone for attending. I want to thank all of our panelists, especially Commissioner McAllister and Mr. Ito coming down from Sacramento. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for participating in this discussion today. It's just the beginning of what we can do here in the San Fernando Valley to really focus on providing these jobs of the future with partnerships, not only from CSUN, but the private sector, and through the legislative side as well. And so I want to thank Assemblymember Bocanegra for attending. I did fail to mention that we did have representatives from Assemblymember DeBonnie's office. Christopher Ramsey and Tim Pershing came from, I see you in the back there, Assemblymember Bloom's office. Really appreciate that. And we'll be gathering over here. If you haven't had a chance to look at these booths, thank you very much for those of you who set that up. And we welcome any additional questions or comments over there. And with that, thank you to my staff and CSUN for making this all possible. Have a great afternoon.
This is the California State Senate.